What's up, guys, and welcome back to Project Z Garage. I'm Ansar. Today we're going to be helping my cousin out with doing the brakes on his 2013 Subaru Crosstrek. Al right now is working on loosening the wheels off the front. We're going to do the front brakes in this video, and in the next video we'll do the rear brakes. It's a 19mm that we're using to take off the lug nuts, and we just have it jacked up on each side right now, just enough to break it loose. And we'll pull the tires off, the wheels off, and let's take a look at how far down the brake pads are, because he did say he was hearing a noise now when he drove it, so he stopped driving it. Now before we get to taking all the pads out of the car, let's look at what he bought to replace the rotors and the pads. He went to Pep Boys, I think, right? Pep Boys? Yes. And he picked up some Wagner QS brake pads. These are the fronts. There's the code, so I can see here. So that's the part number for the front brake pads, and for the rear, and we got some nice rotors here which are coated in the center. That's going to help with any rust prevention, so we don't get those all rusted up. And we got front and back, so we're doing a full job. We're also going to bleed a little bit of the brake fluid out from the calipers, just to make sure that all that stuff is clean. So let's finish this up, and then we'll get to taking off the calipers. Oh, and because I forgot, let's look at the rotor part numbers, which are for the front. They're BD126192E, and the rear are. Is this the rear? That might be the front. Let's take a look. I think that's the front. I think this might be the rear. Yep, that's the rear.
Give me a buck.
Here we go. And the rear is BD180515E. Alright, guys. So we got the rims off, and I mean, the rotor's pretty smooth on this one. There's a little bit of a catch here, but we have new ones, so we're going to replace it. Pads, on the other hand, are pretty low. I can't even see the pad on this, but we'll take it off and take a look. Guys, so we sprayed some WD-40 to loosen up these nuts in the back for the caliper. These nuts are 14mm, and we already got them a little loose. Let's see. Oh, well, there you go. What we'll do is, let's see if we can get this out. You got a screwdriver off?
What are you trying to get loose?
We need the screwdriver to pry it out a little bit. That's too big, I think. No, I'm only taking off the top a little bit, just so we can get it loose.
Okay, the
or you want to
bottom is
take it
still
out?
tight. Hold on.
No, I got it.
Still got to come off. The whole thing got to come off with the other piece too.
Yeah. It's a lot easier if you get a shorter screwdriver.
A shorter screwdriver,
yeah. It does. It just looks like it's barely held on. I mean, if we could have used a G clamp and or C clamp, and we could have closed it a little bit.
Doing it here?
Yeah. Well, right here. Watch it, because you have the metal.
Oh well, that got to come off anyway, right? I got a new one too.
All right.
But I know what you're saying. I'm jamming it.
Yep. There you go. All right. So let's wheel it off. There we go.
Oh, dual caliper, dual piston.
Yeah, we got a nice little dual piston caliper there. But, you know, it's not bad.
There's a lot of shims.
Al?
Yeah?
Look at the size of these brake pads.
They're huge. He's got a lot of pad left.
You got a ton of pad left on there.
So we gotta check the sliders. There's a lot of pad left.
And how many miles you have on this? 40,000?
About 40.
40,000 miles on it. This still has a ton of mileage on these brake pads.
You think the sliders seize up?
Well, you know what? Let's take it off, clean it up.
I think we're still putting in the new ones.
You still want to put the new ones in?
It don't make sense.
All right. Well, any which way, we need to check all of them.
Yeah, something.
Because one of them might be.
This don't feel bad. These sliders don't feel too bad, to be honest with you. We've got to clean up some of this and see what's going on.
Let's clean all this up. We'll take we'll take these what do you call these slider whatever inserts out, clean them up. We'll take the caliper bracket off so we can clean that up and take a look. And while we have all new stuff, we'll pull the rotors off too while we're at it.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there. All right, guys. So after deliberating, seeing that the pads are so good, the rotors aren't bad, we're just gonna clean everything up and put them back on, and we're gonna return the fronts, and then we're gonna move to the back and check and see if the back is worn out. It seems like on these cars the rear wears out faster than the front. Right now Al's using a tool my cousin has that I have no idea where he got it from, but it's like a ratcheting tool that pushes, that has like two brake pad shaped pads, and then you put it in the brake caliper and you just expand them out and it pushes the pistons back in. Now like we were saying, it's a good idea to bleed some of the brake fluid out to get some of that old brake fluid that's by the caliper out, and then just
oh wow, that's cool. Look, it ratchets it, man.
Yeah, it's like on a bolt, so it just pushes them out. Yeah, you don't have to go much because we're putting back on the same ones.
All right, that's pretty cool.
We should be good there.
Wow, that's awesome. Pretty cool. Have no idea where you got it.
Yep, no clue where you got it from. But hey, that's why you have Amazon. look for a brake caliper spreader or something. But we're gonna clean this up, put it back together. What I'll try to do is try to get you guys all the torque specs, and we're gonna put it in the description below. Once we finish cleaning this up, we're gonna clean the sliders up, clean the pad where the pad sits. We're probably gonna put a little bit of anti-squeal on the back of the pads and on the sliders, and put everything back together and tighten it up. And then we'll move to the rear brakes and work on it. No point in making another video, so we're just gonna do one video on doing the front and the rear. Seeing that the front are in really good condition. I mean, they've been on the car for 40,000 miles and still good, so we still have a ton of wear left on these pads, and the rotor really doesn't feel bad. It's smooth.
The sliders have no problems.
Yeah,
they feel like there's still grease inside. There's nothing, you know, binding it up or anything. So
we're just gonna clean it up, put it back together, guys, and then we'll come back as we're taking off the rear. Guys, so we finished cleaning everything up. We put some brake quiet on the back of the pads, and Al right now is torquing the bolts to 20 foot-pounds, and maybe we'll go like a little bit more just to make sure it's snug. But from what we found online, it's 20 foot-pounds from the caliper to the caliper bracket. Also, good idea, spray down your rotors with some brake clean, just so you can get any of the grease and fingerprints or anything that might have gotten on the rotor, because that can affect your braking once you start driving. But Al's just finishing that up, and hopefully you know, from us cleaning it, if the issue was up front here, and putting some brake quiet on the pads, will if the problem is up here, the issue of the squeaking and the noise he was getting from the brakes would stop. Now we're gonna head to the back after we're done with this. So we got the black tire out, and it's the same 14 millimeter on the top and bottom. Al's already loosened those off. Now he's gonna pull the caliper off. There we go. And even these aren't horrible.
But the rotor looks like crap.
Yeah, the rotor does look pretty bad. It's pretty beat up. So I think what we're gonna do is we will change the rear brakes on this. It's not too bad. You might need the screwdriver to get it out.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to swap all that stuff out. So we're gonna change out the sliders, because the Wagner kit came with the new sliders and everything, and we'll go from there. These are really pretty beat up if you look at the rotors.
Yeah, the rotor itself, the pad ain't bad though.
Yeah, the pad is also not too bad.
But the rotor itself looks a little It's a lot of crap. And then this back pad doesn't look like it's what's moving.
Oh yeah, that looks pretty stuck.
I don't know. A lot of rust.
So we're gonna have to clean this up. This looks really
a lot of rust, but
yeah. But all that stuff can cause the pad to stick onto the rotor and cause squeaking, and it can warp the rotor because excessive heat.
A 14 that holds the caliper bracket.
Okay, so also a 14
but
millimeter.
I'm not going to use this because this is too weak.
Yeah, we gotta use a breaker bar
to break it off. Yeah.
So we'll use a breaker bar, get that off, clean everything off, and then we'll work on the next step.
Yeah, we might have to pull this out to back the shoe off to pull the rotor out, but we'll see when we get there.
Yeah, but does it feel loose?
No, I can't tell you right now.
I mean, it's just still.
No, it feels a little tight. We might have to hit it a little bit.
We might have to reduce. You sure that handbrake is not on? No, it's not. It's off because this is turning.
Otherwise, it wouldn't. Yeah,
it wouldn't be turning. Yeah. All right, so let's start taking off the brake caliper bracket.
Yeah, might as well.
And then we'll start working on getting this rotor off. Okay. All right, guys. So once we pull the caliper off, we were inspecting. My cousin actually noticed this, and we were looking at the brake pads. If you look here, something got caught between the brake pad and the rotor on the back side, and actually ate it out or grounded it down. Because if you look at it, this is the way that the brake pad should look, and then look at this one. So what we did is, because you could either have 2 screws, or you have to find 2 screws that fit here, and you can screw it in evenly and it'll pop this rotor off. But you have to be careful, because if you've had these brakes on for a long time and use the handbrake, you should actually back off the handbrake. The handbrake actually is, the way it works is that it pushes against this hub on the inside, and that's what locks the brakes in the back when you pull your handbrake on these cars. So there's a little rubber grommet here. You're going to take this little rubber grommet off. You're going to turn it to the bottom side here, and you're going to look for the teeth. You're going to look for the teeth, which is the actual adjuster for the drums in the back. And what you're going to do is you're going to push it inward, and that's going to contract the brake shoes on the inside, just in case if there's buildup, it'll be easier for this to come out. Now we're on the Northeast, and there's a lot of salt and road grime and weather changes, so this really was on really tight, but we still backed this off a little just in case so we don't damage anything. And then we used a heavy hammer, and then slowly you're going to hit it and rotate this with your hands and work your way around it. And if you don't have the 2 screws to push here, that pushes on the hub to pop the rotor off. But it does also work. Now, let's pull this off, and then we can see what damage there is on the back side. So now if you look here, I don't know how clear it is, but it actually grounded in to the actual rotor itself. So there's a big groove on the back side of this rotor that you wouldn't have noticed if you had it on this way. You think your brakes are fine. So it's a good thing that we inspected these. And also there's a ton of rust on this, so we're going to change this out for a new one. And while we're in here, we're going to spray this down with brake parts cleaner and clean this all up. This way when we put the new stuff on, we'll put a little anti-seize, a couple dots around here to make the rotor easier to come on and off, and won't get stuck on the hub. And we're just going to clean everything up, put the new rotors pads on here, and then we should be good to go. All right, guys, so we got our new Wagner rotor that my cousin got from Pet Boys. It's new. What we're going to do is put a couple dabs of anti-seize around here just so we don't have any issues the next time we have to take the rotor off. We already sprayed it down with brake fluid cleaner or brake parts cleaner, and we're also going to wipe both faces down with brakes parts cleaner. And even after we're done, we'll wipe it down because we don't want grease on here, because you don't want that embedded in the rotor while you're driving, and it can mess up your brake pads, and you know it can cause issues with stopping. So you want to clean these really good before you put everything back together. So let's work on doing that, and then we'll put these on. And then don't forget to readjust your brake shoes too. I mean, you might not need to do it like on these, they were pretty good, but if you've been using your handbrake a lot and there's a lot of buildup, you could have an issue. That's why we backed them off a little. So once we put it back on, we're gonna adjust them back up to where we can't turn this, and then we're gonna do a couple of turns away so that it's loose and that it can turn. So this way it's close, and then just pull the handbrake a couple of times, make sure that it grabs good, and you're good to go. So let's work on that, and we'll come back once we get the rotor back on there and everything adjusted. So the next thing we're gonna do is that we're going to take the brake caliper brackets and we're going to replace these sliders. So you should be able just to pop these off. We're going to spray this down with some brake fluid too, and we got some new ones for it. Now, these aren't good, but they should come out all right. Yeah. Now we're just going to hit it with some brake fluid, clean them up a little bit. Al, can you get me the rag? I gave it to you. Thank you. So we'll clean these up. I mean, if you have some sandpaper, I would sand these down a little bit, get the rust out. Get any junk, brake dust, grease, road grime out of it, because you want them to fit good, because you don't want the brake pads. You want the brake pads to move smoothly within them. You don't want them to be, you know, binding, or else you could have issues with brake wear and other stuff. But just to show you how they fit in, all you gotta do is just pop them back in like that, and we're good to go. And then we'll do the same on the other side, and then we'll put the new brake pads, which I have here. We'll put a little bit of anti-noise, anti-brake pad noise on the back, the grease for the back of these, and we'll start screwing this up. All right guys, stay tuned. All right guys, so as you can see, we got the caliper bracket back on. We've got the new sliders. We put a little bit of grease on the top and bottom. Make sure you don't get it on the rotor. The pads are in. We're gonna put a little bit of brake disquiet from CRC on both sides here and on the back, just to help with the noise. Al already adjusted the handbrake, so what you're going to do is after you tighten it all the way up to where it's not turning, you're going to do a couple of turns back, and as you can see right now, barely, you want like it to barely drag. If you feel it's dragging too much, then you got to back it off a little more. So, and then after you're done with everything, you should pull the handbrake a couple of times just to make sure, because a lot of these are automatically adjusting, and we should be good. So now what we're going to do is let's put a little bit more
brake lubricant.
Brake disquiet. Just a little bit. It doesn't need a lot. And then just rub it around on each side. And then we're going to put the caliper on. And torque everything down. The rear caliper mounts brackets are 49 foot-pounds is what we found, and then the caliper to the bracket is going to be 20 foot-pounds. I mean, I usually do 20 foot-pounds and then maybe snug it a little bit more just to be safe. And it's always a good idea after you drive the car for a little bit. I mean, normally you don't have to do it. I like doing it. I go back and check and make sure all the nuts are tight. I mean, it's not hard to get behind here. If you jack the back of the car up, you can slide under and just check and make sure everything is tight. Also, you should check your wheels after you torque them on. After about 15-20 miles, check the bolts on your wheels too, make sure everything is tight and that you're good to go. Let's get this caliper back on. We already pushed it back in with our little tool. Well, actually, let me...
That caliper spreader actually worked very well.
Yeah, you can go on eBay or something like this. Look it up. Caliper spreader. And make sure you push these sliders in here. What I like to do is get the top first. Makes it a little easier. No, thank you.
I'll take cheese on my burger.
No, thank you.
He doesn't like cheese. He doesn't like cheese.
And we'll get this one.
You're not on it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, in further. Take a look at the front, you'll see where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I think we got it. And we're going to snug it up with our 14mm, and then we're going to hit it with our torque wrench to 20 foot-pounds, and then I'll give it a little more than 20 foot-pounds, but from what we saw, it's about 20 foot-pounds for this one.
Hurry up, it's getting cold.
Yeah. See, they always want us to yell. Alright, now we're gonna hit it with the torque wrench. Al, can you get me the torque wrench? But as you can see, it looks really nice. Everything's all nice and new. I'm gonna hit this. We're using a 14mm. We have this set.
Press the red button. Good.
Right.
Go ahead, tighten it.
And now we're just gonna hit it here. I think we're gonna take this off.
It's 20 pounds.
There we go. We got a little click. I'll hit the back one here. And that pretty much does it for that. We're gonna throw the wheel back on, but before we do that, we'll pull the handbrake a couple of times as we're turning this, just to make sure it's grabbing properly.
So hold this.
All right.
And I'll pull the handbrake.
You want to pull the handbrake? Okay. So I'm just gonna turn these. Oh, there we go. It's locked, and then there we go. Perfect. Now let's get the wheel back on and tighten it down, torque the wheels down. I usually do about 80 pounds, 85 pounds. Definitely check your workshop manual, car specs, car manual, whatever, to make sure you do it to the correct torque spec. That's just what I do.
Do we have to do a braking procedure on this car?
It's probably going to be the same thing. What would I say to do is maybe some slow driving, just to make sure it's grabbing properly. Then maybe a couple stops from 25 miles an hour. Slow down, don't stop, speed back up. Another couple at like 45, and then maybe 50 or 60 miles an hour, and then slow down. Please do this where it's safe to do it, preferably where there's not a lot of traffic, just so you can get some of the pad to kind of embed into the rotor. That way it's broken in properly, and you have good brakes in the rear. The front, we're kind of good. I mean, we still do it because we did take the pads off, so you should still do the braking procedure even though the pads on the front are good. We're probably either going to return those, or we'll just hold on to them for when we need to do the front. I hope this little tutorial was helpful, how-to. If you have any questions, I'm going to try to put as much information as far as the torque specs in the description below. But that pretty much sums up doing the front and rear brakes on a 2013 this is a Subaru Forester. It's not a Forester, it's a Crosstrek. And I mean, it may be similar to some of the other ones. I think this is similar to the WRX, isn't it? Like, yes. The suspension is kind of similar to it. But it actually wasn't too hard to do. We didn't have too much trouble. Everything went on really nice. This is the first time we're using the, was it Wagner products? Yeah. So we'll see how well they work on this car. But it wasn't too bad. Things fit together pretty easily. Yeah, everything was nice and new. It came with all the parts we needed, the sliders, everything, which is great, because sometimes they don't include all that stuff, and it's a pain to put together, because sometimes you have to use back the old stuff, and yeah, that's what you don't want to do. Just remember, guys, follow us on Instagram at Project Z Garage. We're also on Twitter. If you like our shirts, I'll also put it from Teespring. We put it in the description below if you're interested in getting some. But we'll catch you in the next video, and have a good one.
I'm hungry.
All right, guys, and like a good cousin, and you're doing work on your car, you gotta get the steak, burgers, and hot dogs all going. All right, guys, we'll catch you in the next one.